Hey everybody, today we're going back to the basics. What is Pepakura, what are the tools and materials needed, and how it's done. Today's topic may come across a bit basic and cover things you may already know. I get a lot of questions about the basics of Pepakura, so for those of you who've never pepped anything before or who have difficulty in the past, this is you written all over it. We're going to be covering the basics as well as some tips and tricks that'll help make life easier on the gray squishy stuff in your noggin. Pepakura, also known as papercraft, is the process of crafting three-dimensional models out of paper. This is made possible by a PEP file. A PEP file is basically a two-dimensional parts blueprint of the necessary pieces which make up the object you're looking to create. Here's how it works.
A 3D modeling artist creates a 3D model of an object using a program like AutoCAD, 3ds Max, Maya, or even Google SketchUp. Once it's completed, the 3D model is imported into a program called Pepakura Designer, where it's broken down and unfolded into individual and manageable pieces, so they can be flattened out in 2 dimensions and are able to be printed out on paper. These pieces are then cut out, folded, then reassembled by matching up the tab numbers which border each and every piece. The most common way these pieces are held together is with hot glue. However, you can use anything from white craft glue to crazy glue. So after some printing, cutting, folding, and gluing, and then some more printing, cutting, folding, and gluing, and then even more printing, cutting, folding, and gluing, you're done.
So now that you know exactly what Pepakura is, let's go over the tools and materials you'll need to get things going. Now, you're obviously going to need a computer and a printer, but you're also going to need Pepakura files. Depending on what you're looking to make, there's tons of resources out there where you can find them. I've left some great links in the video description below to get you started. If you're looking for something obscure and you're having trouble finding it, and it isn't listed at any of the sites,
always do a Google search. You'd be surprised how often you'll find exactly what you're looking for.
Once you have your PEP files, you need a way to view, print, and scale them. For this, you'll need to download and install Pepakura Viewer.
Pepakura Viewer is a free download from the Tamasoft website. I've placed a link to this download in the description as well. Pepakura Viewer will allow you to view, scale, and print your Pepakura files. One thing you need to be aware of is that Pepakura Viewer does not allow you to save any changes you make to a file, so be sure to write down your scale or measurements before closing the program. In the event you have to refer back to it at a later point in time. The alternative to Pepakura Viewer is Pepakura Designer. It's also a free download from the Tamasoft website. It has all the functionality of Pepakura Viewer, but the designer version allows you to import, export, and unfold 3D files, as well as save any changes you have made to a file. It should be noted that the save and export features are disabled in the free downloaded version of Pepakura Designer. However, you can enable these features by purchasing a software license from the Tamasoft website for the reasonable price of $38.
It's also worth noting that Pepakura Designer will only run on Windows. However, a workaround is possible by running Windows via Boot Camp or Parallels on your Mac. These are some of the problems you face when you buy a computer from a company that deals with fruit. Next on the list is paper, and by paper, I mean cardstock. And by cardstock, I mean paper whose dimensions are 8 1/2 inches by 11 inches, and with a weight no less than 110 pounds. Anything less than this will decrease the structural strength of your piece, and cause problems such as warping and sagging when you attempt to harden it. So that's it, only use cardstock. We're never going to talk about what kind of paper to use ever again. Seriously, never again. Next on the list is pens. You'll need 2. A red one and a blue one. Both of them being of the fine point persuasion. Having too large of a point makes for thick fold lines, and making small pieces an enormous pain to do.
Use one color for the mountain folds and the other for the valley folds. By default, mountain folds are represented by dashed lines, where valley folds are represented by dashed and dotted lines. Make sure to press down with some pressure to create a crease on the paper when tracing the fold lines, as this will help to ensure the paper folds nice and easily. Also notice the ruler, again, a valuable tool to ensure nice, crisp, straight lines. Here's a tip for the pens. Pull the end cap off one pen and pull the tip off the other pen, and combine them together so you have one double-sided super pen. Moving slowly and carefully, with an X-Acto knife and ruler, cut out the pieces. It's always a good idea to use a cutting mat. It will save your furniture and extend the life of both you and your blades. Speaking of blades, you should always make sure to have a pack of replacements on hand. Here's an advanced tip. Once you've become comfortable with the whole Pepakura process, you can try using the blunt side of an X-Acto knife to score the mountain and valley folds instead of using a pen. This will give you razor fine folds while taking a big chunk of time out of the pepping process. If you're feeling really courageous, you can even try it freehand. Now that everything's been cut out and folded, it's time to glue it all together using a hot glue gun. The ideal glue gun is a small, low-temperature Crafts glue gun. A full-size glue gun will work, but you'd have a hard time getting into tight areas, giggity, and gluing small pieces together. Here's another couple helpful tips. One would be to use tweezers. They're great for when you're trying to manage and glue tiny pieces together. Also, a set of helping hands, which are normally used to hold electronics components for the purpose of soldering. They do a great job holding pieces still when you just wish you had an extra set of hands.
See, I told you I'd give you some tips, so don't say I don't ever give you anything. I'll have to find you and cut you with my mind. Last but certainly not least is time. Take your time. It's not unheard of for some Pepakura projects it takes months or even a year just to complete. And just remember that rushing through the Pepakura process can have negative effects and show in the whole project. And after all, the pepping stage is the foundation of what you're building. And if the foundation isn't right, then everything that follows is wrong. So remember, slow is fast. Yeah. Anyways, that about covers it. Now you know what Pepakura is and how it works. So go out and build something frilly and spiky, like a sick and twisted donut. See you next time.